Welcome to the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast, your number one source for making money in the medical ancillary sector. Mike and Viv bring you the latest information from lab services, pharmacy, diagnostic testing, and so much more. The latest in ancillary services will be right around the corner. Welcoming the hosts of the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast, here's Mike and Viv.
Hello and welcome to the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Berg, and joined as always by Viv Hudson. How you doing, Viv?
I'm great, thanks, Mike. And I'd like to introduce myself as your special guest today.
And what a guest I have! It's a privilege and an honor to be able to interview you, Viv, because as everybody's heard, you are an experienced pro in this business. Everybody respects you, and we get a lot of questions, and especially from newer reps, about how do they find these doctors when you're starting out, or even if you're an experienced pro. How are you uncovering these opportunities? Where do you find these doctors? So I know you've counseled a lot of newer reps. We just had Danilo on the podcast, who I'm just looking. He just closed just in the time we did that last podcast. He has 2 more genetic screening, carrier screening deals in. And Danilo did this from scratch without any prior relationships. And how he was able to find these doctors was by utilizing some resources that everybody can use. So I don't know if you want to go back over that, Viv, what Danilo's been using and what you've seen other people using out there to, first and foremost, just to locate their targets.
Absolutely. So back when I first started in medical sales, I actually purchased a doctor's database. I don't even remember who I got it from right now, but it might have cost me $100 or $200, and I just picked the counties that I wanted to go to, and I kind of worked my way through that list. But I didn't probably really need to go to that expense because there's so much more, there's so much valuable information at your fingertips. And I know Danilo used WebMD as a resource, and there are several different health grades is another one where you can look up providers in a certain area, and it will give you, you can do it by specialty. So I know he's been particularly targeting the OBGYNs with the genetic carrier screening, because obviously they see a lot of people that are thinking about having children or have conceived already, or might be having had one child, be looking to have another one. And the genetic carrier screen is therefore a perfect solution for the OBGYN. So you can go into any of these search tools. So WebMD, you can get it as an app that you can download on your phone. Same with Health Grades, and put it on your phone, and you can sort doctors by location, by specialty type. It will give you their phone number, and then you can even get a bit of a visual to help you route your way around. Okay, I'm going to go in this direction because I can see there's 5 doctors over here, and then I'll head south. And because sometimes when I was working off my list that I'd bought, I didn't know what end of town each one was at. So it's always good to get that visual, and that's the beauty of using some of these apps. So that's what Danilo did, and definitely anybody can do that, and you can actually do it on the fly while you're out in the field. Just pull the app up on your phone and see what's around you.
Well, I'll add one more to your list, and I've used this with a couple different specialties, and it works really well. And are you familiar with ZocDoc, ZocDoc?
I haven't heard of that one.
Okay, ZocDoc is they're actually out of New York City. It's a tech startup, but they've been around for, about 4 or 5 years now. And it's a way for you to schedule appointments on the fly with the doctor. So let's say you don't have a doctor lined up. You want to go see a primary care or OB-GYN, whatever it is. You put in your insurance, you put in your location, and it shows you all the appointment times that are available with the different doctors. And you can schedule your appointment right online and see a new doctor.
Wow.
But what's great about it for us is that the doctors who subscribe to ZocDoc tend to be ones that have openings in their schedule. They're looking to fill their schedule. So number one, you know that they're concerned about revenue. And number two, you also know when they're available. So I've used it before. And again, you can make appointments an hour ahead of time. So if you're going to be going into a practice, a lot of times I'll look and it will show all their appointment times. You see they have a 12:30, a 1, and a 1:30 and a 2 available. They got a big, wide open part of their schedule where they're available. That's actually, they're giving you the secret. That's a prime time to go in and try to see them when you may actually get some FaceTime with the doctor too.
Excellent. That's a good one, because I know that I used to actually squirrel away my Friday to work through my list to actually phone each office up, because with most ancillary solutions, your target market is going to be those privately owned independent physicians. So you're not wanting to go to the offices that are owned by hospitals, because typically it's a much longer sales cycle. And not to say that some of those solutions can't work for them, but they're not your lowest hanging fruit. So I would spend hours on a Friday, and I had to push myself to do it because it was quite tedious. And I'm not one for tedious work, but I would get through it. But what it did was that I could then plan my day, because I'd know I'd drive down to a certain town that might be 2 hours from where I lived, and I'd know I'd have a pretty good chance of getting in front of 8 to 10 doctors in that one day. And anybody that does medical sales, that's pretty outstanding when you can do that.
That's a week's worth of work. Getting in front of 8 doctors, yes. Viv, what other shortcuts have you found to locate doctors? I know we spoke about IPAs previously with John Rust, who had the Hawaii IPA. Those are always a great way to reach a lot of doctors at once. But what other shortcuts have you seen out there?
I always found that some of the ethnic groups, they actually will have a physicians group that's dedicated to them. So particularly in my area, and I'm sure it's probably the same around the country, and you might have some other specialty groups, but the Indian physicians and the Nigerian physicians were two. You can go online and you can Google Nigerian Physicians Association. For the Nigerian Physicians Association, the URL for is at ANP for Peter, a.org, and then you can have a look for your state to see who manages the chapter. And they often have local conferences as well. I mean, I never did go and attend a conference or sponsor a conference, but certainly I know other reps that have. But kind of if you can get into one office, they will, once one does it, it's such an easy sale to then get more people to buy. And the other one is like API India, API USA. They are all different, AAPIUSA.org. They're all different ones that will have those unique chapters in each state. So I'm sure that there's probably some states that have a higher ethnic background of certain, ethnicities. So, but in my particular area, they are too. And they're often pretty savvy when it comes to the business side of practice. They're often the adapters of ancillary services, and sometimes they're also the ones that want the best price. But just know if you can get one, you're opening up a gateway to get a whole lot more behind them.
Heck yeah. I have actually had experience with that. I was in the dental field for a while, and I got in with the Filipino San Diego Dental Society, and I sponsored an event, and it was well worth it. And plus there were probably close to, I'd say, about 75 members, and not that they were all at the event, but even just the fact that I attended and that I was able to give a little short presentation before they started their meeting. It didn't cost that much, And that gave me, even the doctors who weren't there, it gave me some good ammo to go back in there and say, hey, I was at the last meeting for your organization, and I've been speaking to this doctor and that doctor, and this is what we do. And you name drop a little bit, and they all know each other. So it's a great place to get referrals as well. And I'll tell you one other thing that I used once that worked really well. And this is back when I was a pharmaceutical rep. And it worked so well that I remember I even got a reward from Merck. Used to give you Merck bucks, and you could spend those at the company store. And I think I bought a piece of jewelry or something like that with it. But what I did was I had a doctor that was a very high target for us. In fact, he was probably the top prescriber in terms of the number of scripts he wrote in our disease state. So, and we were always looking for an angle to get in with this doctor, to get him out of the office. Of course, that's always big. And I noticed that other doctors, younger doctors, when I would just be chit-chatting with him, they would drop his name sometimes and say, hey, you ever see Dr. Gerges around? Tell him I said hi. Well, Dr. Gerges is an associate professor at one of the medical schools, and he takes on a lot of residents. And so I organized an event. I said, we're doing a little reunion for Dr. Gerges and everyone that went to Ohio University Medical School. And lo and behold, I got a huge attendance. Dr. Gerges loved it. They let me do a little presentation. I said, I just need 5 minutes of your time, and then you guys can enjoy the rest of the event. And I did a little event for him, and it went off. It came off very well, and we got a lot of leverage out of it. But just using things like that, looking for ways that you could connect doctors together or organizations that already exist. Just looking for those shortcuts. I mean, this business is not like any other business where networking is very important. If you're not networking and leveraging the relationships that you have, you're really missing out on a huge opportunity.
Yeah. And it is hard to get doctors out of their offices for like an evening event. So probably the best way to do it is to celebrate somebody like you did, because if it's going to be an informational evening, it better be pretty value-packed content, because doctors' time is very precious and they don't give it up lightly. So
that's right.
Good work on that.
Well, thank you, Viv. Anything to add?
Well, I just want to share a couple of other tools that I've always found very useful. I didn't know that this particular one existed until I'd been out in the sales field for a number of months, and I had to ask somebody else to look up how much the reimbursements were going to be for different things, and I didn't realize that I could do it myself. And that is the CMS lookup tool. So if you're looking up your codes for how much you're going to get reimbursed, whether it's for falls testing, whether it's for an annual wellness visit, you can actually look it up by state, by locality, and you can put in either a single code or a list of codes, and that actually comes direct from cms.gov. So if you're not sure what to look up, I always just type in CMS lookup tool and pick one of the first couple of options that come up on Google, and then you need to accept that. The other thing that I like to use is Medicare payments through HealthGrove, and I'll give you the URL for that. So it's Medicare, and that's -payments.healthgrove.com. And I regularly use that. So if I'm talking to a doctor, or one of the reps that we have is talking to a doctor about the chronic care management or annual wellness, or even just if you want to have a look and see what their payer mix is like, often doctors will tell you, oh, I've got 1,000 Medicare patients. And I always go and double check with HealthGrove to find out how many actual active Medicare beneficiaries that they have. So once in a while you can't find your doctor, but probably 85 to 90% of the time you can put in the doctor's name, the city that they come from, or their zip code, or you can simply put in their NPI, and it will actually give you how many unique Medicare beneficiaries that they billed out for. And the data is 2014, so it's not going to have changed that much in the 18 months since 2014 finished. But your doctor that says that they see 1,000 Medicare patients, you might find has only really got about 300 perhaps that are truly active. So if you're thinking about what solution you want to pitch or how hard you want to pitch it, because you want to know what the opportunity is, then that is just an excellent tool that can save you a lot of time and heartache, because we've had situations where we've had reps think that they've got a doctor with a whole bunch of Medicare patients, and then we've looked it up and they've got like 150. We're never going to get 100% take up. So you don't want to spend a lot of time just recruiting 100 patients into a chronic care management program when you can go for a much bigger fish. So that is a very valuable tool, and one that I frequently share amongst the reps that are out there. So that's just my bonus tips there, Mike.
Well said. Well, with that, we're running long, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you, Viv, for the valuable info. And if you guys want to reach us, you can always email us at ancillarypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks, Viv.
Mike.
All right. Take care.